And now, live from the University of Surrey on Stag Hill campus in the United Kingdom, welcome to our live production for On Air.
Welcome to Surrey Tapestry, a programme that brings together art, culture and community in Surrey. Today we'll be looking at a film that explores living with dyspraxia. We'll also be discovering the poetry of our campus. And finally, we will uncover the national dresses of our fellow students. 3.5 weeks ago, this programme was just merely an idea. Stemmed from a creative challenge lab, Surrey students came up with interesting content to make a live TV programme from On Air. Led by the wonderful Susan Pratt, a few of us proposed concepts to be included. A member of our production team thought that exploring dyspraxia would be an interesting topic. Sethany, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Now, I'm aware that this subject is really important to you, so could you explain what dyspraxia is?
Yes, so dyspraxia is a neurodevelopmental condition that affects motor coordination, executive function, spatial awareness.
Awesome. Well, thank you for your explanation. Now, in terms of the impact of a dyspraxia diagnosis, could you explain further about that?
Yes, so a dyspraxia diagnosis, I think when someone first gets it, it's really insightful because it helps them to understand more about struggles that they've grew up facing and sort of how they can just deal with them better. And I think it does affect children a lot within school, as a lot of primary school is centered around, I guess, motor coordination. And in fact, there is shown to be a significant impact on academic performance, as there are some statistics that do show that kids with dyspraxia on average get less GCSEs than children without. So it is something important to spread awareness and be looked into, as it's quite underdiagnosed.
Well, thank you. That was very insightful. Thank you for joining me in the studio.
Thank you for having me.
With that in mind, the University of Surrey won funding to create public impact from research on dyspraxia. The film was produced, written and directed by staff from the Guildford School of Acting, and one of the leading characters was played by a graduate from the school. Let's have a look at the trailer. Joining me in the studio is Stacia Hicks, writer and director of This Is Me, and Alexandra Thomas, one of the leading actors. Stacia, what was the idea behind the film?
So it started from a series of blogs and things that I'd read, some by Alex, and I was really struck about how they experienced it, rather than tell people what dyspraxia actually is.
I know what you mean, yeah.
It was more, how do you get people to understand what the experience is like?
Ah, I see.
And a lot of it actually came about from understanding some of the things Alex talks about driving and what that's like. And I thought, God, that's like being in a spy movie every day. We think that's exciting, but if you live that every day, it's not at all.
I can imagine.
So yeah, it was how do we make a movie? I wanted to make a movie that really made you think you were getting one thing, but then showed you actually the world exists in a completely different way.
That's, I mean, definitely how the trailer seemed. And speaking of the trailer, there was some quite shocking scenes, but I understand that there was another scene that involved Kung Fu. Could you tell me more about it?
Yes, so without giving too much away about the film, there is a kung fu fight scene that happens between Alex and your counterpart, your inner world, perhaps, played by Charlie Casito, who's fabulous. And I think you've got some BTS of her.
Yes.
In some stills from that, and yeah, so it is a full-on fight, kung fu fight that happens.
Wow, that's very exciting.
Traditional kung fu filmic style. And it was really important as well, actually, to do that, because when we were casting, we had to cast for Charlie because both actors had to have dyspraxia.
Yeah.
People were like, well, they won't be able to do that, surely. Can't you get somebody without dyspraxia?
Yeah.
And it's like, no. And so it became really, really important, actually, that we had that scene and that it was done by actors with dyspraxia, because it's very doable. In fact, they probably understand movement much better than anyone else does.
Was that sort of your experience then, Alex?
Of the movement?
Yeah, considering sort of like actors with dyspraxia were only considered for the role. So did that add to your performance, or do you think it portrayed your condition in an authentic way?
Yeah, and me and Stage had the privilege of working together throughout workshops and things like that. So you really understood me and my experience of it. And I think the film depicts like a very visceral experience of dyspraxia. It places you in the position of understanding it on an emotional level as opposed to an intellectual level.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was brilliant.
And sort of final quick question, was there a particular scene that you thought expressed your sort of relationship or experience with dyspraxia?
We agree.
Yeah.
We've talked about it.
We were saying the cinema scene.
Yeah.
Ah, yes.
Kind of the idea of like fighting with yourself and in order to try and conform to society that need to try and fit in and resist the parts of you in being dyspraxic that maybe make you feel slightly other in those kind of social situations.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think everyone would identify with that as well. The film is also about what it is, all the parts of ourselves that we try to keep in because we're scared of revealing who we really are.
Oh, well, I'm glad that you were able to express that in the film. Stacia and Alex, thank you both so much for joining me.
Thank you.
As the teams delved into the arts around us, Anna, a first-year creative writing student who'd only been at Surrey for a year, had the idea of writing a poem that encapsulates our students, our campus, and opportunities for everyone. Here she is.
We here at Surrey are in quite a hurry. With many societies within our halls, life will never be dull. With so many peers, you can always hear our cheers. It's quite a thrill being active, running, jumping or diving whilst improving our skills, as our sports teams train and gain experience to triumph any challenge they may face. So replace your limits and soar above the walls that cage you. Many who drew before you will guide you to paint without restraint or sing with the wind, encouraging you to build and hone your skills to make art that can be seen or heard. You can be undeterred in your studies as pupils expand their minds with each mountain of words they climb, leaving every barrier behind to grow and unconceal mysteries within their fields, gaining more knowledge with courage. Exploration is encouraged. With many peaks of hills and histories within the community, you can end up finding paths to get around. There's an endless line of streams and various deep lakes that make you want to slow down and take a break. You will soon find great pines and people who will define the city. In the corner of cafes or on a soft bench down by the lake, you can always find a place to stretch and take a break, as well as a place to have cheap thrills. Various spots can be as quiet as a whisper or as loud as a crowd, where friends can hang about and plenty of banter will be had. To celebrate, to learn, and to grow. That's what it means to live in this vast community. People treasure their individuality over conformity, sharing songs, food, history, and many more activities to create a thread sewn throughout the community to create unity. We here at Surrey are still in quite a hurry, with bustling voices, ideas and peers. Everyone feels welcome here.
Anna joins me now. Now, as a creative writer myself, I love poetry, so I have to ask, what was the deeper meaning behind the poem? Was there anything that sort of inspired your sort of creative themes?
The poem itself is meant to put the listener in the position of, let's say, a first-year student at uni.
Mm-hmm. Sort of like yourself.
Yeah. Showing them the many things that can happen, or the many interests, clubs, societies they could go to, allowing them to feel like they're either back at uni or allowing them to get some context into what uni life is about.
That's brilliant. Well, lovely. Thank you so much, Anna. And finally, Anupama Manish wanted to share the rich diversity of our student population here at the University of Surrey. They were aware of the wonderful national dresses that many of their friends had. Not only did they look amazing, but they held significant historical and cultural stories. Let's have a look.
I'm from Sri Lanka, and this is a traditional costume called the osari, which is a type of sari that's specific to Sri Lanka and Sinhalese culture. It originated in the Kandyan kingdom in the ancient times, and though it was initially worn by like noble women, now it's worn every day, like in offices, like school teachers would wear it, even the air hostesses wear like a made-up version when they're on the flights. It's worn every day as a symbol of national pride by women. You'd wear them even at like parties or weddings, but it would be a more ornate version for that. I think people feel quite proud of the costume as it's quite a unique type of sari, and I think it does make people feel quite like close to their country.
I'm from India, and right now I'm wearing a sari, which is a common costume for Indians. It is also worn on special occasions like the epitome of brides, where we always wear during each and every festival. So it really feels a little bit adorable and powerful after wearing a sari. In different parts of India, sari is worn like a different little touch. Like if I'm wearing a blouse, some of the regions will not wear a blouse. They will drape it in different sections and like in different draping styles. So sari is common, but the draping styles are different, which differs from culture to culture and like regions to region. You can see right now I'm wearing a common Indian sari which consists of pleats and a pallu, and also it is paired with a blouse, and it can be seen that the jewelry is on.
I am from Gambia, and my costume is a modern but also traditional version of Gambian attire. This outfit I'm wearing would normally be worn to parties or events such as Eids, naming ceremonies, or just a general outfit to wear when you're going out somewhere fancy. The reason why it looks the way it does is just to represent Gambian culture as a whole, because normally the typical outfit worn on a daily basis is like wrappers or like dresses that are just not as extravagant as this. Typically, most people would wear something similar to this, but also wear modern clothes. So this is more like a reflection. If they really want to wear it, then they can, but it's not compulsory, like you have to wear it for this event. We just wear it because we either like it or we just want to feel special.
I'm from China, and today I'm wearing a qipao, which is a traditional Chinese dress. The qipao became popular in the early 20th century and is often worn on formal occasions or festivals. And it is known for its elegant style, close-fitting shape, and beautiful designs, showing both beauty and confidence. Today I chose this outfit because I think it can represent Chinese history and culture, and I'm proud to share this tradition with you.
I am from the Republic of Congo, which is in central part of Africa. So what I'm wearing today, look at the stunning patterns that this fabric has. It is called wax hollandais. In fact, all the patterns show our identity, and it is well deep in our culture. We use it since the 19th century. It actually expresses a lot of things, some bold statements, political views. For instance, the pattern that I'm wearing, it means my husband is capable. Like, He is able to look after me. This is what it tells. Also, it expresses one's character. Look, for instance, the way the shoulders, the sleeves, are made are different. Also, make my own design to make it look so beautiful. So we wear it in so many occasions, from wedding to festival and so forth. So it's part of our identity and culture.
Wow, what beautiful dresses. To think 3 weeks ago, none of this existed. So well done to everyone on the team for making this happen. It has been a great experience and I hope you enjoyed watching. Goodbye.
And now, live from our TV studio and Pat's recording studios, welcome to Sounds of Surrey.
Hello and welcome to the Sounds of Surrey, celebrating 55 years of music and mastery. We have a packed programme filled with past graduates sharing their amazing careers and music from across the university. Coming up on our programme, we have Emmy Award-winning composer Michael Price and Grammy Award-winning engineer Ollie Jacobs. We showcase talented students from across the university in big band, performances from 2 student bands and a special performance from our staff band. 55 years ago, the University of Surrey started its music degree and a specialist course in music and sound recording, which brought together the excellence in music teaching and the technology of sound engineering, where students would record musicians and mix live bands to produce a portfolio of work. The students on this course are known as Tonmeisters, from the German for sound engineer. Let's hear from some of our alumni from both courses.
My name's Randall Shannon. I left university in 1974, and I've recently stepped on from what I am determined will be my last job as Executive Director of Wexford Festival Opera. My year was the second intake, 1971, so it was a very small department. Even at the end, when there was 3 years, 4 years, there's only about 50 people in the department. One of the great things about being here at the very beginning was we started everything. We set up a music society, and I was secretary of that in my first year and chairman in the second year. And that also got me involved in putting on concerts. The first concert I ever put on, in fact, was 14th of November 1973, which sadly coincided with Princess Anne's wedding, and nobody came. Because I was studying with the principal bass in the Bournemouth Symphony Orchestra, he brought me into the orchestra. So my first work was with the Bournemouth Symphony Orchestra. And I freelanced as a bass player for about 10 years, based in London. Well, early 80s, I got involved with the Arts Council to set up a touring opera company called Opera 80, now English Touring Opera. And I became the fixture, the orchestra manager of that. And that's what led me into a career as a management manager. I've been working in opera for the past 40 years.
I spent a surprisingly large part of my life with the Tonmeister programme at Surrey. First as a student from 79 to 83, and then on the staff from 1986 to 2009. When I first started, it was really the only degree course that properly integrated music and science under one roof. There was the chance to get your hands dirty and make recordings, which was the main attraction for me. There were fewer than 8 of us. We had one studio and an 8-track analogue tape recorder, which seemed like luxury in those days.
And I did music. Was very involved in the event management side of music project, the module, all the way through my 4 years at uni, and it gave me really good skills from an organising people point of view, communication, being able to facilitate tech and staging and all of these other elements that come into putting on an event. I was very involved in the stage crew at the uni, a lot of people were in the industry or going into the industry, so I had a really good community of people there who were kind of showing me what it was like to be a working professional in those kinds of areas. So yeah, I got a really great opportunity. So I ended up becoming a sound engineer straight out of uni. Still work at the same company. I've been there for 4 years now, doing TV, like reality TV award shows and stuff, doing sound on those.
I was that rare kid who wanted to be a music engineer from a young age. I knew exactly what I wanted to do, and with the help of the degree, that's exactly what I did for a little while, and then an opportunity came up to move into film, and I moved into film, and one thing led to another, and now I'm responsible for global dubbing and subtitling across TV and film. The reason the course is successful is partly it's that balance of the practical and the theoretical, and then certainly when I was at university, it was a sandwich course, third year in industry, and it's one thing to do what you do on your own time with no other pressure. It's another thing to do the same thing when there's someone actually paying for the time. It really does change your mind about things, and then you come back into the final year having both that theory and that hard-nosed, hard-won practice, and then you wander off into the industry, hopefully not quite fully formed, but certainly on a good standing. I suppose it's made me who I am today, and I wouldn't be here without it, let's put it that way.
Well, it's so wonderful to hear what our alumni are doing now. But now it's time for the first performance of the evening, here from the recently refurbished Pat's Studio 2. I'm joined by the rest of the members of Security Blanket. Let's go.
South across to France, there is no way home anymore. Through pieces, a shell left open bound with wires. There is enterprise within the soul. In a bright room without windows, a shadow falls upon the same place for a century. Till you can't see dust upon the tide. Let's die! Oh, but you said it's getting better. The black heart of RGB. Checks me when you're home, she said.
Well, that was the first performance of the night, but now let's change gears and go from the rock and pop of Studio 2 to the large ensembles of Studio 1. It is a performance of Marianne from the University of Surrey's Big Band. Take it away. Well, fantastic vibes from Big Band, and a shout out to the sound engineers who helped us hear their brilliant performance. Now, we're returning to one of our graduates from a number of years ago. He is an Emmy winner, Royal Television Society Award winner, Motion Picture Sound Editors Award winner, and has many more prestigious nominations. You will have heard his work in the soundtrack of the series Sherlock, Dracula, or Unforgotten. Michael Price, welcome back to the University of Surrey.
Thank you, Gabe, but I haven't done as much exercise as you have in the last few minutes. Very impressive.
Thank you very much. I was wondering what attracted you to the University of Surrey and specifically the Tonmeister course in the first place?
I think there was something early on, because when I came to the course, it was in the 1980s. It was a sense of exploration, a sense of wanting to be able to combine music and physics and a technical sense which all felt like we were adventurers at the time. It felt like we were sort of having to kind of make the road in front of us as we were going forward. And there just wasn't anywhere else like it. And I think when I came here and met my fellow tonmeisters who were equally as eccentric and driven and funny, it felt like I'd come home.
That's wonderful. And after completing your time at Surrey, what was your first job in the industry?
Well, my first job after graduating was in W.H. Smith's in the record department in Leeds, because I think, like many people, it looks from the outside that there's a kind of a linear straightforwardness to people's careers, but when you're experiencing them, you're looking down the other side of the telescope. And so I spent 5 years doing day jobs, and then I worked for Smiths, I worked for First Direct, the bank on the phones, but then after writing a bunch of classical music that probably nobody will ever hear, would ever want to hear, then after 5 years I find myself working for an American film composer, Michael Kamen, as his assistant.
So yes, you mentioned Michael Kamen. I mean, his career, if you look it up, is quite spectacular. He's worked in films and he's worked with such diverse bands as Pink Floyd and wonderful artists like that. How did you find working with him?
It was absolutely extraordinary, because it was like accidentally getting on a train and then realising it was going to take you at very high speed through a variety of very complicated stations. So the first day that I arrived for my new role as one of his assistants was on a Monday. Michael turned up 3 days late on the Thursday, but on a Friday we had to record a full symphony orchestra for a film called Event Horizon with Orbital in a theatre that Michael had just bought. And so you, from working in the north of England for contemporary dance companies where our year's funding was sort of like 2 sandwiches and a can of Coke, all of a sudden we were working on this sort of Hollywood scale of kind of creative madness, which included working with Metallica on the album, Metallica S&M, doing the TV series Band of Brothers, the first X-Men film, beautiful little gems as well that are not often as well known. There's a beautiful animated film called The Iron Giant, which is just wonderful, that we recorded in Prague with the Czech Philharmonic. So every week there was madness, but 5 years of that is a pretty good education, I think.
It would be. I love The Iron Giant. That's a wonderful soundtrack as well, isn't it?
It's such a good film. Beautiful.
Yeah, but of course, after working for Michael Kamen, you moved on mostly into working as a music editor.
Sure, exactly. Yes. Again, these sort of like accidental 5-year blocks, in that after 5 years with Michael in the musical trenches, you get to know people in all the studios, whether it's in London or in LA or in different European capitals. And so I'd left Michael on very good terms, but to try and work more on my own writing as a composer. But I had a call from the studio manager at Abbey Road at the time saying, "Oh, we've got 6 weeks freelance work on, can you do some Pro Tools on a film?" I said, "For sure, count me in." I didn't even know what the film was. And so when I showed up on that one on a Monday morning, I said, what are we doing? And one of the other engineers there said, I think it's Wizards or something. And that was the first Lord of the Rings film. And so accidentally, I ended up doing all 3 films, all 3 director's cuts, and become the lead music editor on the Lord of the Rings trilogy, but very much accidentally rather than deliberately.
And it wasn't just the Lord of the Rings films, of course, that you worked on in this time. Some other classics, a little film people at home might have heard of called Love Actually as well.
Bless it. I mean, it was, again, this sense of sort of a little bit of saying yes without quite knowing what it would entail seems to have led me to some interesting places. So it was literally that somebody said that they knew somebody who was the Lord of the Rings music editor. I'd never worked on a romantic comedy or a sort of a songs-based film before at all. So I went in to meet Richard Curtis on sort of day one of Love Actually, but fortunately Richard hadn't directed a film either. So it's his first film as a director, mine as a music editor. And we spent probably a good 9 months locked in cutting rooms in Soho, playing Motown tracks to each other. And it was, people often say that the making of horror is always really funny, because you end up in a sort of an opposite mindset depending on what's on screen. But having said that, Love Actually was difficult but joyful really all the way through, and really is one of those films now that a lot of people re-find 20 plus years later.
I think that the fun that went into it probably certainly comes across in the film itself, especially the soundtrack. Was it another happy accident that led to you starting to get picked or putting yourself forward to doing scores for film and television under your own baton, so to say?
Yeah, I think that there is a sense of becoming ready, again, sort of unconsciously ready, in that looking back now, if I'd have perhaps had the chance to score something like Sherlock when I was 25, I think I would have made a right Horlicks of it. I just don't think I would have had the context or the experience for it. But I'd subsequently, when I was music editing, I had already made friends with David Arnold, the Bond composer, fantastic composer. And so the two of us shared a sort of very dry sense of humour, and I'd helped him out on a few bits and pieces. So by that point, we were co-writing in various sort of different configurations, but just doing things that made us smile. And so, again, from unauspicious beginnings, Sherlock, there's a pilot episode, which I believe is available in the darker corners of the internet, where we tried, somebody else was hired for it, Gabe, before us. Ooh. Exclusive here, and it hadn't worked out, and so David and I got a call just to come and have a little bit of a go for a couple of weeks. So we just threw some tunes at it, and then the pilot episode went away. We didn't hear anything for 18 months, and then when it came back, it had been rewritten, slightly reformatted, different director, different sort of visual approach, and then all of a sudden, Dave and I looked at this sort of new version 2, and it had this spark. It just sort of leapt off the screen, and sometimes I don't think you know when something is going to be amazing, and then there are other times when it's very, very clear that something's going to be great. And so that was part of our lives, I think, for almost 10 years.
And what do you think was it about your education at Surrey that helped the most in how you went about your career through the early stages and up to where you are now?
I think there is something, I think there was then and there still is now, there's something unique at Surrey about the combination of challenge. It's kind of hard. Everybody has to work very hard and things are taught at a high level. But there's also this sense of exploration, which I think on a good day, if you can catch us all with a following wind, means that we're ready to explore. And that is a beautiful thing.
Fantastic. Michael Price, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Gabe.
And now it's time for a return to Pat Studio 1, where big band led by James Warren and mixed by Adam Magson are jumping at the woodside. Take it away. Weren't they great? Here at Surrey, we are lucky enough to have a host of different ensembles, choir, orchestra and jazz orchestra. But now it's time for a return to pop. It's second year Tonmeisters and Friends Sunday Club. Take it away.
Tired, but I've also never felt this alive. The lights are blinding, and the music has started to go into overdrive. I know it's crazy, I know it's dumb, and it's not your fault, it's mine. At least I didn't get too carried away this time. Saw it in my eyes too, but I just knew it was way too good to be true. Still something out of the movie, 'cause most of them were fiction and real lies. I looked in your direction and caught you staring back at mine, but now I'm starting to think that you were giving me false signs. I never try, but I'd regret it if I left without saying hi. Sometimes it feels right, even if the game's impossible. Well, now I know it was impossible, and I know it's crazy, and I know it's dumb, and it's not your fault, it's mine. At least I didn't get too carried away this time. Saw it in my eyes too, but I just knew it was way too good to be true. And I know I'm dumb, and it's not your fault, it's mine. At least I didn't get too carried away this time. A friend saw it in my eyes too, but I just knew it was way too good to be true. 'Cause it was something out of a movie, 'cause most of them all fiction and all lies. I looked in your direction and caught you staring back at mine, but now I'm starting to think that you were giving me. It was something out of a movie, 'cause most of them are all fiction and all lies. I looked in your direction, caught you staring back at mine, but now I'm starting to think that you were giving me false signs. Thank you.
Well, what a great performance. Earlier, we were lucky enough to welcome Ollie Jacobs to the studio. He is a 3-time Grammy Award-winning sound engineer and a graduate from the Music and Sound Recording course here at Surrey in 2014. I asked him what led him to this course.
What led me to the Tonmeister course? I really wanted to work in music, and I really wanted to do something that combined technology and music. And when I said that to my music teacher at the time, a guy called Michael Oakley at my school, he was like, oh, there's this place called the Tonmeister course at University of Surrey, and it's kind of the best one. It's pretty hard to get into, and you're going to have to like switch course a bit on what you're studying. But if this is what you're really serious about, this is what you should go and do. So I did some research, and I managed to chat to some people who had been on the course before. and it kind of seemed like it ticked all the boxes in that it combined everything that I love, which is music, it's technology, it's record making, it's musicians, it's twin with the music school. So it was kind of a no-brainer, and I was a little bit together for him to go on tour. I helped build playback rigs and keyboard rigs. And then after I graduated, I was lucky enough that they had an opening and I applied for a job there, and I went back as an assistant engineer after I graduated.
That's fantastic. And how important do you think it is for students here at Surrey or in any course to get that early work in while they are still students?
I think it's really important. I think you can, university is a place to gather knowledge, and the work placement year is a place to apply that knowledge and figure out what sticks in the real world and what doesn't. And I remember coming back from my placement year thinking, oh, I've absorbed so much that I can then bring into the final year and apply there. So yeah, I think it's like absolutely crucial.
And so after you graduated, when you were at Real World, what was it like getting the opportunity to record and mix for the 1975?
Oh my gosh, those guys are amazing. We had so much fun on that session. It's where I met my fiance. It's where I met Jack Antonoff, who's a producer that I work with a lot and love. Yeah, that was kind of the last record I did in-house at Real World. It was so much fun, such a great group of people, and I made a record that I'm extremely proud of. I love that record. I listen to it all the time.
I do too.
Thanks, man.
And while we're dropping names, what was it like working with Harry Styles?
Working with Harry Styles was incredible. He loves music. He just like truly fundamentally loves music. And when you're working with someone who has energy like that, who just wants to create and make records, it's amazing. We also won a Grammy for that record. Me and the other engineers put in like so much time on the sonics, on the edits, and making everything sound great. So yeah, I mean that was that record. I mean Tom, Kid Harpoon, and Tyler Johnson. Those guys really kickstarted my career. Really, they took a chance on me. They gave me a shot at engineering when I'd just been an assistant before. And without that record, I wouldn't have been able to move to America. I wouldn't have been able to do what I do now. So yeah, Harry's the best. Working on that record was amazing. I'm so grateful for that opportunity.
Wonderful. So as you alluded to, more recently you've moved on from Real World and you've gone freelance, and you've been living in LA as well.
Yes.
So how's that been for you?
It's culture shock. It's a big difference. It's full of Americans, which is amazing. And the music scene there is incredible. There's so much happening. There's so much going on. There's so much going on in London and the UK as well. LA just has so much happening, so much music happening. As an engineer, there's a lot of opportunity there. The main reason I moved there was for love. If I'm being honest.
That's a good reason.
I never saw myself moving there forever, but now it's my home, and I love being there. I love working there.
And since moving there, you've been working on even more iconic acts like Sabrina Carpenter and, of course, Taylor Swift recently. How's that been?
I feel extremely lucky that I get to work with people who are the most talented at what they do. They're like unbelievable creative forces with a really clear vision who execute it in an amazing manner while being friendly to everyone, while respecting everyone, while being like kind of like pushing the boundary of what pop music can be. And yes, Sabrina and Taylor, I mean, are two great examples of incredible musicians. It's just like so much fun working with them. It almost doesn't feel like work. It's just like we're just like friends having fun in a room. Yeah, so lucky to get through those records.
As much as you may have a great time making the records, do you find that there's more pressure when you know just how much exposure there will be on the finished project that you're mixing or engineering?
That is a great question. Is there more pressure? I think you should always try and do your best work and put your best foot forward, regardless of what the outcome of a record's going to be, whether it's going to be listened to by your mum and your grandma, or if it's going to be half the world. I think the added pressure comes from wanting to do a great job for them and wanting to make sure you're portraying their vision correctly. And in that case, Jack, the producer, making sure that we're helping him as best we can to put forward the artist's vision. So I think for me, that's where the pressure comes from, is like kind of like, don't mess this up, really.
And speaking of a very exposed situation that you didn't want to mess up, how was mixing live for the Super Bowl halftime show?
Super Bowl was crazy. Again, like another unbelievable, incredible team of creative people who, just always put their best foot forward. The show was crazy. I think it's the most watched thing ever on TV, like 120 something million. It just won an Emmy Award for Best Musical Direction. Again, like, I'm just kind of like blown away and overwhelmed that I was asked to do that. And totally grateful for Kendrick and the team for asking me. It was like a crazy, crazy opportunity to get to do that.
Did you ever feel on that like you were making compromises for the live mix after you'd been working on the album GNX for such a long time? Yeah.
We got to like hone that mix quite a lot. So I don't think it felt like there was a compromise. It felt like we were reimagining it and doing like just like a more live version of it, basically. I think it's an incredible like output of and great representation of his work.
Right, and that's fantastic. Finally, it's wonderful to have you back on campus. What's brought you here?
What brought me here? The University of Surrey, and specifically for me, the Tom Meister course, gave me so much when I was starting out. And I think as a student, one of my favourite things, when people who were doing this for a career came and spoke to us and gave some experience and gave some insight into their progression in their life. And I really want to try and give a bit of that back and try and inspire some people. It's such like a unusual job that I think it's like really important that people talk about it, and I think it's like fun to talk about it and talk to people who are like young and excited and inspired and just at the start of their career. So that's why I really wanted to come back and chat to everyone.
Ollie Jacobs, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Gabe. It is Gabe, right?
It is Gabe.
Yes.
Yep, it's still Gabe. It's lovely to hear about the great success that follows our alumni. Ollie in particular has had a remarkable year, and we hope that his star only continues to rise. But back to the staff that teach us and keep our studios running. Please welcome a fun and funky performance from the Scarmeisters, with John Warburton on keys, Rupert Flint on bass, Sam Sarjadid on percussion, Christos Husidis on drums, Randy Alley on steel pan, Russell Mason on the trumpet, Natasha Vinga on baritone sax, John Priest on vocals, and John O'Madrick on guitar, aka the Scarmeisters.
Hey you! Don't watch that! What's this? This is the heavy, heavy monster sound! The nuttiest sound around. So if you've just come off the street and you're beginning to feel the beat, well listen, Buster, it's time to move your feet to the rockinest, rock-steady beat of the Scarmeisters. One step beyond.
Well, wasn't that completely spectacular? Now, just before we go, here is a quick peek behind the scenes of Pat's Sound Studio 1. Pat's Sound Studio 2. And finally, the gallery crew live from the film production and broadcast engineering degree. Well, that is all we have time for from the University of Surrey. We've had a brilliant time sharing our music and graduates with you. Enjoy the rest of the broadcast. From the University of Surrey, it's goodbye. Yeah. Handing you back to our transmission control in central London.